Hey everybody, this is Alzorath, and welcome back to another bonus episode of Diablo 2. Today we're taking a look at another build. This is technically a Magezon of sorts. There's a million different types of Magezons. There's the Javelin / bow, hybrids, there's the solid bow, there's the solid Javelin. There's different names for it depending on where you've looked, like fishies on and stuff like that, but this I'm gonna call, basically, I call it the Ice Phoenix, because, well, that's what it's named after its weapons for. Yeah, you're gonna see those in a little bit. You may notice I have redemption there. That's Phoenix. This is actually a fire and ice Amazon, and I notice a lot of people have been like getting on the ice Amazon train lately. It's a popular kind of like niche build kind of side thing. I do like it, and you can actually go full bore into that. Dabrunsky has a video covering the ice Amazon where it's pure ice. You focus on maximizing that damage and that damage alone. You don't really need to worry about a whole lot, and it's mainly used for like ancient tunnel runs and stuff like that. It's really solid at that. I wanted something more for like running Chaos Sanctuary, which, yeah, you can do a Paladin for that, and yeah, that's Blessed Hammer Paladin. We may cover that eventually. That's more of a mainline build. I wanted something a little bit more fun, and I wanted a reason to dust off Elemental P, which is a character you guys may recognize from a previous run. She's level 92 now, for those of you that are wondering. Yeah, I've played her quite a bit since then. I've actually given her real gear. So yeah, she's fire and ice. If we swap weapons, you can see that our actual skills down here swap, and that is intentional. You shouldn't have to like swap skills while you're in a bow. So you're pressing weapon swap a lot, not skill swap. And it's kind of designed around basically being able to run Chaos Sanctuary, but it can run pretty much anywhere as long as you don't run across Gloams, because this thing's resistances to, well, lightning is kind of pants. But the goal is to freeze what you can't burn and burn what you can't freeze. Stat-wise, enough strength and dexterity for your equipment. You're going to end up with a lot of dexterity if you go with the gear that I went with, which is matriarchal bows. So yeah, I have some decent ones, but I went with superior just for a little bit of enhanced damage. Not that it really helps. You should probably be going for ones that have +3 skills. Sadly, I couldn't find a superior one with +3 skills for one of them, so we're just kind of happy with that. And the rest into vitality, don't really bother with any in energy. With the gear that we have, you should have enough mana to go for a little while on it, and then use redemption, which is on your Phoenix bow, to recover from that, and you can use the Holy Freeze to slow enemies down in the process. So yeah, and right now I have a Conviction / Holy Freeze Mercenary because I do primarily sit on the Fire Bow side, which is probably surprising to a few of you because Fire Bow Amazons are notoriously hard to build for some reason. For some people, I personally didn't find it too difficult. As soon as I had the Phoenix, it made me happy. But as far as skills go, pretty slim. We have 1 point in Magic Arrow, which with our plus skills makes it affordable. So it makes it down there. Generally, I want to get this down to as close to 0 as possible. I believe it's level 12 that it gets down to 0. And it's just a good kind of backup weapon for your ice bow side, so you don't really have to, you know, burn through all of your arrows. And also, ice bow side does not have any real mana recovery, so you generally need to be using that magic arrow for that, and that's why I favored that one for the plus skills over the fire one. But we have 20 in Cold Arrow, 1 in Ice Arrow, 20 in Freezing Arrow, 20 in Immolation Arrow, 20 in Exploding Arrow, and yeah, I've just been dumping my spare points into Fire Arrow to increase the Immolation damage. You could go into Ice Arrow to increase the freeze duration. Not really super important, your freeze duration. It's 2 seconds, it's fine, and you're not going to really get it up super high even if you dump this all the way up, so it's not going to help a bunch. You're also not going to get the average fire damage per second up super high either, because once this is up to 20, it's only going to be like 400 damage, I think, or something like that. Some low-ass number, but the exploding damage is what we're worried about on that. As far as other skills, we literally just have 1 point in each of these, so we can get down to Pierce, which puts us at 59% Pierce there, and we have 33% Pierce on our belt, which gives us about 92% Pierce. Yes, you can go another point into this and get it up to 99 if you put if you get up to 3 points or have plus skills and stuff like that. As far as charms go, you can actually get it up to 100% Pierce, which is helpful. I find 92% Pierce to be fine. It's good enough. So yeah, we're happy with that. So anyway, That's pretty much all of our stats. It's really straightforward. We don't do any javelin and spear shenanigans on this. I generally keep my javelin and bow characters separate because I don't want to really have to branch off two trees. You can hybridize them. Like, you could go down the lightning tree and go with ice, or you could go, like, if you only have the resources to get one of these bows, I would probably recommend going the ice bow because it's going to be a little bit more reasonable to kind of keep going with that, and then just get a lightning javelin backup or something like that. I really don't like getting Valkyrie with this because you can't really invest enough points into it to make it like the super Valkyrie. So unless you're just doing mono, and it gets all kinds of convoluted. But anyway, back to this build. I'm diverging. As far as the keystones of it, you want more IAS than I have, but I only have like 40% increased attack speed. You can get more through different pieces of equipment and stuff like that. It can be useful. You could actually get, I'm trying to remember what helmet it is. There's a +2 skill that has IIS, which would actually be nice. I'm just using this because I wanted Magic Find. There really is no other reason for it. Damage reduction is nice, but you can get that elsewhere. I just wanted some Magic Find because I am going to be doing Chaos runs on this, and I have charms to back that up. So you want at least 40% increased attack speed. That'll get your ice down to, I believe it's 9 frames and 10 frames, or is it 8 frames and 9 frames? It's faster. The ice one is going to be slightly faster, and you don't need the Phoenix to be super fast. But this is just an okay pair of gloves. You generally want one with resists, because our resists are actually crap, as you saw on that screen. So you do want resist there. Boots, I just have War Travelers. The type of boot you have doesn't matter. You could go some Crushing Blow if you wanted to. Just remember it's greatly nerfed whenever you're using range attacks, so it's kind of meh. So I generally just go for the Magic Find on this and just leave it be. I have a dual leech ring here. This is the one that I keep transferring around to characters. A high resist ring would be nice. You don't need the dual leech, but it's nice whenever you're on the ice bow and having to leech a little bit to get your mana back up, because you can't always rely on retribution, but it is kind of like a full rejuve in your pocket. Ravenfrost so cannot be frozen. This is kind of an obvious choice. You almost always see me using these. The way we're getting our extra pierce is Razor Tail. This is going to give us 33% pierce, and that's pretty much the only important thing. Gives us a little bit of extra dex. You may notice my dexterity is super high, mainly because I like to be able to wear my gear naked, so yeah, so I can actually show off different stuff. You could obviously get your life up much higher if you did min-max your stats to actually just like fine-tune them in there, but I don't do that usually because, yeah, it's just my thing. Chains of Honor, I went with this because of resists. You could go with Enigma, depends on your personal preferences. Enigma, you will have negative resists because, yeah, you don't get enough from that. You'll have better Magic Find, and pretty much everything else is going to be about the same for you. This is just a nice armor. I prefer Chains of Honor over Enigma, so yeah, and I just like the look of the studded leather, so we made it in that just because I could. So yeah, it's going to be in there for a while. And I do recommend light armor with this so you can move as fast as possible, because we are not speedy unless we get inertia charms. So this is about as fast as we can go. Harlequin Crest, I already explained that. You could get increased attack speed on your helmet. You could get resists on here. You could get your increased ice damage, which I'm trying to remember the name of that helmet. It looks derpy as hell. That's why I don't use it. It's an elite Spired Helm unique. So yeah. And then we have High Lord's Wrath for the other 20% of our increased attack speed. That brings us up to 40, which gets us to that, I think it's an 8 and 9 breakpoint. You can go faster if you have more, like, increased attack speed, but this is what we're at. It gives us a little bit of lightning resist, which is important. We do actually have okay lightning resist. It lets us survive most things except for Gloams. So, yeah. I like that. But finally, but last but not least, we actually have the weapons. They are both very expensive weapons. Ice is a little bit cheaper. In my opinion, it's a little bit easier to get hold of the stuff for. This one you need Vectex Low Jaw, and this one is Am Shale Jaw Low. So you basically have Jaw and Low in both of them, and then you have 2 Vexes in the Phoenix, whereas you only have Am and Shale in the Ice. So it's definitely cheaper. The Phoenix, the goal with this one is you actually have minus 28% enemy fire resistance is super important. You have some mana leech on there as well. Not that we actually use it. Ignore target's defense lets you actually leech every now and then. This one I decided to use the +2 bow skills one that I had instead of the +3 because I wanted the +3 on the ice so we could actually get that magic arrow down a little bit better. The redemption arrow aura is super important on this because it's basically you want to knock out a bunch of enemies, and as long as you're killing, you're living. So you are able to actually deal with most of the enemies that are going to be a threat to you, and then just eat them up and be back to full health and full mana right away. You may notice we don't have a swap for battle orders. You could do that. It would get complicated. Very, very complicated, because you'd actually have to be carrying a weapon and a shield around with you, or at the very least, a weapon and a shield whenever you are first, like, starting out on the day. So, Firestorm helps out if they're, like, encroaching on you. I generally don't rely on it. It does a bit of damage. It helps out. Deadly Strike is okay. Fire Absorb is okay. Pretty much the main things that you are worried about on this are the enemy resistance down and the redemption aura. That's the main reason we're using it. And I use Immolation Arrow on the left click, and then I use Exploding Arrow on the right. You explode with the... First you shoot the Immolation Arrow, then you spam the Exploding Arrow until this refreshes, then you launch this again, because this is your big damage and this is just your sustained damage. So basically you're doing about 2200 damage up front explosion, and then you are doing this per second plus this twice a second, maybe 3 times a second, depending on which second you're counting. So it adds up really, really fast, and against non-fire immunes it works, and this actually will punch through fire immunes as well with your Mercenary's Conviction, because I am using Infinity on him, just because it works. And yeah, you can punch through, and you can usually even kill like Venom Lords and stuff with this if you really want to, but generally I just switch over to Ice, and like I said, I'm pressing W to switch weapons to actually switch skills as well. On this one we have Magic Arrow and Freezing Arrow, which is a nice spammable 2300 damage. And this will actually freeze enemies, so you won't be able to eat those because they won't turn into corpses. But you have Holy Freeze Aura to slow enemies down. You have increased attack speed, which lets you spam out this skill because it doesn't have a cooldown on it a lot faster. You have Ignore Target's Defense again, and you actually have Reduce Enemy Cold Resistance and Increase Fire Damage. That's one thing that I'm kind of sad to say is not on the Phoenix, but Ice does actually have increased cold damage, so you actually have a big boost on top of the Frozen Arrow as well. So yeah, this one is amazing. You actually can build just around this. Generally speaking, the only thing with that is you actually have mana issues, in my opinion. So you are chugging mana potions, or you are doing very short runs with it. So, and I do rely on that on a few characters, but I don't like doing that whenever I'm going through Chaos Sanctuary, because it's not a quick run. It's literally you are going through the enemies and beating them up. Takes me about a few minutes to actually go through Chaos Sanctuary, but that's because I'm also leveling there. And I usually can do it on players 7 or 8. In the demonstration footage, if I actually included it, I was doing that on players 1 just to show off the character. But yeah, this works amazingly well even on players 8, because you're freezing them, you're eating them, you're staying capped out by just killing whatever you can, and it is just frequently swapping back and forth. And the hardest part of this build, by the way, and we'll come out here and kind of show it off. Let's see if we still have enemies up here. The hardest part of this build is actually getting your swap timing down, because if you're spamming stuff like this, you're not going to be able to swap. Like right there, I pressed W while I was shooting like that, but what you want to do is you want to take like a half breath break and press W, and you'll immediately swap over to the other element. And then you can just do that and swap back, and it just gives you like a little tempo. And once you get into the rhythm, it's actually quite effective. Usually I'll get into the rhythm probably second or third run, and I can just churn through whatever I want, and I don't have to worry about getting the timing right on this, because it'll be like muscle memory for a little while. And it's just overall a fun build, and it can do anywhere at players 8 as long as you avoid Gloams. If you run across Gloams, I just ditch. It's just what I do. That's one reason why I don't use this one to run World Stone, because your chance of getting them down there is pretty high, but you can run that. If you're going to run that, I would recommend getting extra lightning resist, possibly. I wouldn't switch the belt out for it. I would probably be looking at possibly a ring for it, or your gloves, to try and get lightning resist up, and possibly magic damage reduction would be kind of helpful. But overall, that's the build, and if you guys enjoyed this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions about the build, be sure to ask them down below. I try to keep these a little bit more casual and chatty, as opposed to like super analytical breakdown of everything. so you guys can get a feel for just like the builds that are fun rather than necessarily the builds that are just completely overpowered. Although, honestly, this one borders on overpowered in my opinion. So it can get pretty gnarly, and you can see we can eat all these corpses in here. And these guys are going to wake up. Oh no, whatever shall we do? Burn them alive and eat them. But anyway, keep gaming, have fun, peace out. This has been Alzorath. Bye.